Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater. I'm Terry Chaffin. We are people of many paths, united by 6 shared values centered around love. Working for justice, believing in the worthiness of every person, adapting to the changing world, accepting others for who they are, understanding that everything is interdependent, and cultivating a spirit of gratitude and hope. Our service leader this morning is Reverend Susan Ross. Our musician is Ani Love. After the service, please join us in the social room for our traditional monthly potluck. On the 3rd Sunday of the month, we share lunch together and hope that any guests and visitors will join us. Today, until 11:59 p.m., you can order the new UU Church of Stillwater t-shirts with the UU Values flower logo. There are adult sizes in both short and long sleeves, and youth sizes in short sleeves, all in a variety of colors. This is not a fundraiser. You just pay what the shirts cost. Donna Sinis has volunteered to pick up all the orders and bring them to the church when the shirts are done, rather than people running up there themselves, and certainly rather than getting them shipped to you, which would cost $9 more. Thank you, Donna. The book discussion group will meet Friday, June 26th in the forum room to discuss Opus, The Cult of Dark Money, Human Trafficking, and Right-Wing Conspiracy Within the Catholic Church by Gareth Gore. Video calling may be available, but may not, since I think Susan will be out of town and Mike Smolin is out of town, and they're the two that normally set that up, so that may not be on the cards. But if you have questions, contact Susan Bullard and she can answer them for you. Next Sunday's sermon will be provided by Reverend Mark Christian. His sermon title will be A Civic Religion Revival. As he mentioned in the June newsletter, it's about time that our civic nature be revived a little. The revival of civic religion may be what leads us into the most healthful future. Beginning Thursday, August 6th, and running for 8 not necessarily consecutive weeks, Mary Kate Couch and Greg Winnie will be leading a listening circle on the journey into wholeheartedness. Each session will begin at 7 p.m. There's a sign-up sheet in the social room, and the listening circle will have 6 to 10 members. I don't know if it's full yet. Do you know if it's full?
It is, but you can have a waiting list.
Well, there you go, for the next one. The forum in July is going to be on Sunday, June 12th at 12:30, when I will be presenting a piece on use of intellectual property by UU churches, which I've been studying for a while, and discovered that UU churches and all churches use music, readings, poems, movies, etc. in a variety of ways. And copyright laws, which are very complex, can be a very inconvenient truth that congregations need to weigh against their values in deciding church policy, costs, and procedures. I hope it's not as dry as it sounds. If anybody has an announcement, please come up to one of the microphones. Okay, I think we're ready for our prelude.
Right here? Anyone? Who knows what today is? I'm sure almost everybody does. It's Father's Day, but what else is it? It's the summer solstice. I was sharing with one of my little Spanish-speaking friends. She said, I didn't know that. It's the longest day of the year, and this solstice is a very special one because of how things are aligned out there in the cosmos. So I decided to wear yellow in honor of the sun and to bring my kind of bronzy yellow singing bowl, and this is a moment of meditation. So I'm going to start with a singing bowl, and then I'm going to go into a kind of a meditative music piano piece by Bach, okay? So just close your eyes. Take deep breaths. Connect your feet to the floor. Let your hands relax in your lap or beside you, whatever's comfortable.
Thank you, Ani. So the solstice happened in our particular part of the world at 3:30 this morning. I hope you got up to watch it. We light our chalice candle this morning on this day that the sun gives us the most light that it can, to remind us of the light that is always inside of each of us and the light that is among us, again, always when we gather, and of the light that is always out in the world. Because this is also, as we've already said, Father's Day, I would invite you in the next few moments to reflect in silence on some person who has played a fatherly role in your life. Just a few moments of reflection and silence. Our opening hymn is number 133, One World. I invite you to stand as you are able and join in singing.
I'm going to play it through first.
Good idea. So Lemony Snicket has, who is actually an actual person who writes stories, and you can get them at the Stillwater Public Library. He has a story about a little boy who befriends the dark, or perhaps the dark befriends him. His name is Laszlo, and he is afraid of the dark. And he knows that the dark lives in the house with him. Sometimes he's pretty sure it hides in his closet. Sometimes he thinks it probably is hiding behind the shower curtain in the bathroom. But mostly, he's pretty sure the darkness hides in the basement. So, the darkness would wait, he's pretty sure, all day until night, and then it would go out and cover all the windows and the doors in Laszlo's house. It would spread itself against them. And then in the morning, it would be gone. It would go back to hide in the basement. And Laszlo would open the door to the basement and say, "Hi, dark." The dark would never answer. And then he thought maybe he could keep the dark from coming to his room where he kept a nightlight on. So he would always turn that nightlight on and keep his flashlight next to him in the bed just in case. But one night, it didn't work and everything went dark. "Laszlo," the dark said, "I want to show you something." So Laszlo said, "Is it in the closet?" The dark said, "No, it's not there." "Is it behind the shower curtain?" "No, it's not there." So Laszlo went downstairs and looked out the window of the house where there was lots of darkness. The darkness said, "No, it's not there. Down here." And the voice seemed to be coming from the basement. So he went downstairs. He'd never been in the dark's room at night. And the dark said, "Come closer." And Laszlo did, carrying his flashlight, of course. "Bottom drawer," the darkness said, from behind an old chest of drawers that was stuck in the corner. So Laszlo opened the bottom drawer, and it was full of small bulbs that exactly fit the light bulb in Laszlo's nightlight that had just burned out. "Thank you," said Laszlo. "You're welcome," the dark said. The next morning, Laszlo asked the dark, or visited the dark in the basement. I can't read my writing. And "Hi," he said to the dark, but the dark didn't answer. But when he looked over in the corner, that bottom drawer was still opened, and it looked like someone was smiling. The end. Don't know who's doing this part. I guess I am. Okay. I'm all of a sudden all alone up here. So we have a responsive reading this morning, and it is found at page 461. Are you coming to do
I'll
this
do the
one?
offertory.
Oh, okay, you're doing the offertory. That's good. I don't have to do that part. Okay. 461, We Must Be Saved by Reinhold Niebuhr. Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime.
Therefore, we are saved by hope.
Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history.
Therefore, we are saved by faith.
Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone.
Therefore, we are saved by love.
No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own.
Therefore, we are saved by the final form
This church exists because of your commitment of time, energy, and resources. This is the time in the service when the offering is given and gratefully received, and this month we are donating part of the plate to Raising Voices.
Language changes constantly, right? We invent new words for new ideas, for new thoughts, for new objects, new inventions. Words like blog and chat box and selfie and mansplaining and manspreading and tradwife. And then eventually those words get into our dictionaries. But we also let go of words. We do that all the time as well. We don't pay as much attention to that. We let go of words because they become obsolete. What their function was in our language isn't needed anymore. We let go of words because they've lost the meaning they originally had. Sometimes we let go of words for no reason that we can really think of. And we don't really notice until someone does start noticing the words that we've lost and writes about it. So, for instance, in 2020, the linguist Paul Anthony Jones wrote a book that he titled The Cabinet of Calm, Soothing Words for Troubled Times, in which he collected 51 obscure words no longer used, and he focused in his list on words that he felt would help people stay calm when things went wrong. And he wrote this book at the very beginning of the COVID epidemic, so there were things going wrong. Words like cultivation, which means solving a problem by dealing with it one little piece at a time, like simicky, which is the act of people joining together in force to accomplish something because they would have more effect as a group than individually. A year after that, still in the thick of COVID, etymologist Susie Dent wrote an article for The Guardian about the joy of reclaiming long-lost positive words. She noted that we're familiar with words like unkempt, unwieldy, inept, disgruntled, ruthless, but we have forgotten, or perhaps we never even realized, that once upon a time, people could describe each other as kempt, or as wieldy, or as ept, or gruntled, or full of ruth. In the conversation in 2022, Sarah Pon-Sands wrote about words that she thought ought to be brought back. Biophilia, which is the love of life. Calacrimate, which means to weep together. I especially like that one. And adamate, not like automate, but A-D-A-M, adamate, which means to love very much. And all of those three authors also included in their word lists the old word respair, a very old word, it turns out. The Oxford English Dictionary, which always puts in citations, quotations that show the usage of the words that they list, it only includes one citation each for the word respair, one for respair as a noun and one for respair as a verb. And both of those citations are from the 15th century. So evidently, they were unable to find any more recent uses, in writing at least, of the word respair. Respair means beginning to recover from despair, the returning of hope after a period of despair, or a period of fear, or a period of exhaustion. I didn't know about the word respair until almost exactly a month ago when I heard Jessamine Ward interviewed on NPR's Fresh Air. Ward has won 2 National Book Awards for her novels Sing, Unburied Sing and Salvage the Bones. But her latest book is a collection of essays. And it's titled On Witness and Respair. That is also the title of one of the essays in the book, and that essay was originally written for Vanity Fair in September of 2020. In it, she talks about her hot, wordless grief, the grief that she sank into after her partner, her beloved, the father of her children, died at the very beginning of the COVID epidemic, before people even knew to call it that. For weeks, she says she couldn't do anything but feed her children and sometimes feed herself. And then, a little at a time, she began writing again. And then George Floyd was murdered, which added to her despair. Except then she says she saw something that she had not ever seen before. I woke, she says, to people in the streets. I woke to Minneapolis burning. I woke to protests in America's heartland. Black people blocking highways. I woke to people doing the haka in New Zealand. I woke to droves of people, masses of people in Paris, sidewalk to sidewalk, moving like a river down the boulevards. The people marched, and I had never known that there could be rivers like this. And as protesters chanted and stomped, as they grimaced and shouted and groaned, tears burned my eyes. They glazed my face. The revelation that Black Americans were not alone in this, that others around the world believed that Black Lives Matter, broke something in me. Some immutable belief I'd carried with me my whole life. The belief that America fed fresh blood into for centuries. This belief that Black lives have the same value or less value than a plow horse or a grizzled donkey. I knew this, my family knew this, my people knew this, and we fought it, but we were convinced we would fight it alone, fight until we could no more. I cried in wonder each time I saw protests around the world because I recognized the people. I recognized their action for what it was, witness. They witness injustice. They witness this America, this country that gaslit us for 400 years. Witness Black people, indigenous people, so many poor brown people, gasping our last breaths with COVID-riddled lungs, rendered flat by undiagnosed underlying conditions, triggered by years of food deserts, stress, and poverty. I sob, and the rivers of people run in the streets. When my beloved died, a doctor said to me, the last sense to go is hearing. When someone is dying, they lose sight and smell and taste and touch. They even forget who they are. But in the end, they hear you. I hear you, she wrote. I hear you. You say, I love you. We love you. We ain't going nowhere. I hear you say, we hear. Later, in another interview, Ward said, if you are present for and aware of grief and loss and trauma, then perhaps that leads you forward to being present for the expressions of joy. To witness is to commit to absorbing an experience, a moment, a memory, a story, and carrying it forward. That has been Respire for her, witnessing, writing, seeing that she's not alone. There was Respire in Chicago this past week. The word wasn't spoken, or at least I didn't hear it, but it was there in between the lines. Maybe you saw it or heard it or read about it, the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. Michelle spoke first. Y'all, she said, hope is all we have, because hope is the essential spark that lights the fire of change. But hope is a choice. Whether or not we use our voices to speak up is a choice. Voting is a choice. Being a decent human being is a choice. Believing that we still hold the power to build a country that reflects us all is a choice. And then Barack. On the road, he said, you'll read words from some of America's greatest leaders, including a quote that inspired that arch you see right there at the south end of the plaza. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It's a quote often invoked by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but it originally comes from a Boston minister's sermon more than 170 years ago. That was a Unitarian Boston minister, even though Brock doesn't say that. And at the time, the abolitionist cause seemed lost. The Compromise of 1850 had made harboring fugitive slaves a crime under federal law, even in those states that had abolished slavery. And in a case that garnered national attention, a young fugitive in Boston had been seized and tried and marched to the wharf by hundreds of armed officers, where he was summarily put on a ship bound for the South, where he would remain in shackles and chains. And it was a moment of profound uncertainty and despair, a moment the minister called darker than any New England had witnessed. We do not see, Reverend Theodore Parker observed, that justice is always done on earth. Many a knave is rich, sleek, and honored, while the just man is poor, hated, and in torment. I do not pretend, the preacher said, to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. But from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice. The good Reverend was under no illusions about the perils and obstacles facing the abolitionist cause. His words offered no easy answers, no comforting assurances that he or his congregation would live to see the progress they so desperately sought. Rather, his was a declaration of faith, a defiant call, not to abandon hope or give way to fear, but to stay true to our better selves and true to one another, and to keep fighting to fulfill the promise of this nation, even in the face of cruelty and bitter disappointment, even in the face of impossible odds. Respair. It was in between the lines that day, and it's a word that's catching on. There's an organization also in Chicago named Respair, whose purpose is, in their own words, reshaping culture toward liberation. They build media partnerships with and in support of communities that are challenging power, that are reconfiguring public life, that are reimagining the world. Respair is also the name of a London-based jazz electronic quartet. One critic says their arresting, poignant stories and serene melodies both envelop and free you, sending you off toward an odyssey-like horizon, healing you like some mystical revelation, a return to hope, true to the name. And it's the name of an Oklahoma City-based band, about which one reviewer said, "Respair as a noun is said to be the return of hope. If there ever was an anthem expressing those feelings through song, the debut release from the four-piece Oklahoma City band Respair has completely nailed it. The album, humbly considered a demo, is everything you're missing in your collection and in your life. Let this be a sigh of relief and a breath of fresh air for the downtrodden and the crestfallen." Respair is the title of a CD recently released by the North Texas Wind Symphony. And there's a video game, of course, called Age of Respair, where you build medieval castles and bring respair to your kingdom. And maybe most interestingly, there's a company that builds state-of-the-art medical airway devices like parts for CPAP machines or for ventilators. And that company is called Respair Incorporated. The truth is, the word respair comes from an entirely different root, different Latin root than the word respire or respiration. But there is, I think, something of breath about respair. Respair is maybe that unfolding of a gradual easing of our breathing, a beginning of being able to rest and catch our breaths, a sigh of relief. The word emporium puts it this way: respair names the quiet moment when despair loosens its grip, enough for hope to re-enter the room, a thawing, a returning, a breath of air entering again. Jessamine Ward says that the first time she read the word respair was in a poem by a poet she follows on Twitter. I don't know if this is the poem she read, but here is a poem about respair by the poet Craig Van Rooyen, who actually is a lawyer and a judge in California, as well as a poet. Every 6 minutes, another word is dropped from the lexicon. Who says there's no use anymore for wool fell, the skin of a sheep still attached to the fleece? And when did we stop calling tomatoes love apples? I need somewhere in the world for there still to be a fishwife who understands the economy of flesh grown taut under shimmer skin laid out in open air. Call me a sentimental fool, or better yet, a mooncalf, but I already missed the 10 words that went extinct in the last hour. Before I learned their names or tried to say something smart to make you love me. Pie powder, dry salter, slug-a-bed, forgotten like the names of the enlisted in the army of Alexander the Great. And where have they gone? Gathered on shrinking ice like other victims of our inattention, floating out onto a rising sea. Like the last day my grandfather remembered my mother's name. So don't mind me in the bathtub on my hands and knees, trying to keep my grandpa's mind, a polar bear, and the word poltron from spinning down the drain. It's been left to me to save everything by remembering. Before the cock crowed, Peter thrice denied Christ, and 20 words marched off to the dark, never to be uttered again. Fortunately, that night we retained dumbass and forgiven. 2 words it would be hard to live without these days. And if I could, I'd turn myself inside out to resurrect respair, that forgotten Emmaus Road word for the return of hope after a long period of desolation. So, happy solstice, happy Father's Day, and may you know the gifts of respair on this day and all days. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn is number 121, We'll Build a Land. as we go out into the world later today, may we go with the knowledge that the light goes with us, that the light is also already there, and that we and the light together will work on despair. That ends the recorded part of our service. And are you doing something else? Oh, good. Oh, good.
All right, it is time for June birthdays. I do know somebody's birthday it is this month. Who do we have for June birthdays? Donna, Roger, Susan. All right. Prepare to be sung to for Roger yet again. Happy birthday, cheers to you. Happy birthday, cheers to you. May great goodness keep you all year through. And we love you, we do. Happy birthday, cheers to you. Happy birthday, cheers to you. May great goodness keep you all year through. And we love you, we do. All right. You are now invited to come forward after I light the candle. I can't talk unless